morning, Viewpoint. Mrs. Busby's got her mic finally ready to go this morning. Judith K. Busby, to my right, the 51% ownership of Viewpoint. And we always
that was a Christmas present.
We have two great guests this morning that we're going to have Mrs. Busby introduce shortly. As you know, folks, we always try to start out with Viewpoint with a kudo or two. And the other night, Judith K., I went to the Logan County Fair Association board meeting, just as a matter of interest. And it occurred to me, you know, these fairs just don't spring up and happen from 1st of May on. It's kind of an ongoing year-round planning. And these folks work really very hard. And so I thought it might be appropriate if we'd extend a little kudo, a note of appreciation. That Logan County Fair has been with us since 1936. By the way, that's where I first learned to be an entrepreneur. I was one of the high school kids. We sold programs out there and in those days, the harness races were really a really big thing. And they had several days, all afternoon, and then of an evening, we had what we called, if you please, the Society Horse Show. And you wouldn't deign to go there and sit in the box without a jacket and a tie on. And so we sold programs, and the programs were for both the afternoon and the evening gigs. I think they were 10 cents a piece, but we found in our first afternoon, I found that people asked for pencils. Well, I didn't have any. So I rushed down to Kresge's and I bought several pencils, quite a few, at about 2 or 3 cents a piece, and I sold them for a nickel a piece. So
you really were an entrepreneur.
My introduction to entrepreneurship.
There you go.
Anyway, seriously, the board really does a great job in working and planning on that, and to Dean Bruns, president, Mike Moskey, secretary, and they all I don't want to leave anybody out, and frankly the old geezer forgot to bring his notes on the rest of the folks that sat around that board table, thanks to Dave Irwin, who wrote them down for me. They all deserve a little note of appreciation, so kudos to the Logan County Fair folks. I noticed too, near and dear to your heart, that the hospital is going to furnish valet parking.
Yeah.
You might comment on that, Judith K., if you wish.
I think it's a beautiful idea, and it's been up and running for about a month now.
Has it?
And people are getting used to it. I was glad to see that they're advertising it now, so that those who need a service like that can take advantage of it. And I hope they will, because it's there for them. And of course, you end up, as in most cases, counting on people's good sense, you know. Like, for instance, I seem to be able to get from pillar to post most days. I don't maybe need valet parking, but there are an awful lot of people who come there who need it desperately. And I hope that they'll all take advantage of it. It's a darn good idea.
Well, I hope that those that do not necessarily need that assistance would take advantage of it. But of course, those folks who would do that would be the same folks that would park in the handicapped parking lots or parking spots and get up and run away from their car. They're out there, you know. There are always a few out there. What was the Harold Trapp said? Well,
you please quote that, because I quote him many, many times.
Dear deceased friend of mine for many years now, Judge Harold Trapp. I used to sit and philosophize with him once in a while in the backyard over a beer and a cigar or something. And one time he made this statement. He says, "Long ago I came to the lamentable conclusion that people are just no damn good."
And in his line of work, I bet he did see that.
He was an appellate judge for it, was all saying, and a brilliant man. So, did you have anything that our roving reporter Lois Harvey might have sent down that you wanted to take advantage of?
Yes, and
we have roving reporters around the country, folks. We have a dear friend up across Wisconsin who's a roving reporter, Lois Harvey, and she sent a few goodies for Judith to maybe regale us with for a few short seconds.
Well, since Christmas just passed, and there are so many beautiful things about the season, but then the aftermath sometimes gets kind of bad when you look in the mirror. You have 3 sizes of clothes in your closet: 2 of which you'll never wear. And I think that goes for men as well as women.
Well, I would think that'd be true.
One time I tried to get a whole lot of things out of Buzz's closet to take to the pink shutter, and I put them on the bed and I said, now you look at them, and if there's anything you're emotionally involved with, put it back in the closet, and the rest I'll take uptown. And he put it all back in the closet.
At least he did it. You didn't have to.
I'm at the point where I'm getting rid of things right now. Oh, we also we've added a new roving reporter. Goose Nut recruited another reporter. We try to keep the gender balance on this as appropriate. Mayhem has come aboard as a roving reporter, and she'll be reporting in. And she did report in an early report that the red-headed mattress fishers' annual migration to Las Vegas has been delayed because of the warm weather up here.
I see.
So that's a report. And if we can get Mr. Ash to approve her contract, we'll bring her aboard as another roving reporter.
Oh, he's so generous. He would be happy to do that.
Now, why don't you go ahead? Oh, I'd like to also mention our friend John Blackburn had a nice write-up in the Pantograph this morning. Lincoln College is very, very, very lucky, and we're very pleased to be bringing John on board as our new president this summer. We've had the wonderful gift of having John Astroth as our president for the last couple of years. It's interesting, the last 2 presidents have retired and jumped right into something else. John Astroth retired from very successful leadership of Heartland Community College for 20 years, took it from its inception to where it is today, and he's been an outstanding president for Lincoln College now. And John Blackburn is retiring from an excellent career with Country Financial. Not going to retire. He's going to take a few weeks off and do a little traveling and enjoy himself for a little bit. And then he's going to start acclimating himself, working with President Astroth. And in the end of the summer, we'll have a new president, and that's going to be an outstanding thing for Lincoln College. Why don't you introduce our nice guest?
I'd like to do that. Jan Schumacher and Terry Carlton are both members of the Logan County Board, and I'm sure everyone is aware of that. You've both served for a number of years now and served faithfully and capably, and thank you for that. It's kind of a thankless job sometimes, I'm afraid. We were talking before we came in here about money, ironically. Any governmental entity talks about money. I'm sure you eat money, you sleep money. I bet it's just always on your mind how to stretch your budget and please everybody, which of course will never happen. But we were talking about 5th Street Road. Yes, all the people out there think it'd be very nice if you fixed that. But then the people out in Leanna Township or somewhere probably want their bridge fixed too. And it's pretty hard to get it all done, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hard. The funds are really limited. You know, I chair the Road and Bridge Committee. Of course, being former chairman, I watched all that happening, and being a citizen of Lincoln, you know, you watch what's happening and you hear all this about in the past where they totally cut the levies out. The levies being the funding for the county highway fund, the county bridge fund, and motor fuel tax. And what those things are is they're the parts of the dollars that the Logan County is given to match and to help fund for our bridges, our roads, and you know, the mix. There's different things that are allocated towards that. But one of the problems is, and we had this discussion with Brett Offkamp, the county highway supervisor, here a few months ago about the status of our bridges, and this because there is one bridge currently shut down in Logan County, and the problem is the cost to be able to repair that is very astronomical, and you go into a matter of what that is. And when we look at the dollars that are actually allocated in the county bridge fund currently and what we get annually, you know, on a levy we can only really push that levy up so much. When they didn't fund it a few years back, we can't actually fund additionally. That's, you know, you can't
catch up.
You know, once you cut it, it's gone. It's gone. You can't do. There's no catch up to it. So that hole that we dug back then is there. And when we look at the projects and to repair our bridges, the discussion was basically he'll be meeting with our county township supervisors as well, and basically discussing the status of our bridges, and if we have to begin to that's a horrible thought. I mean, that we might have to potentially shut down certain bridges and prioritize them by how much traffic they have and stuff like this. We have to begin to think about that now rather than just kind of let it happen to us.
Do we still have WPA bridges in Logan County? We did have relatively recently.
I'm not for sure on that, but I know that we have a lot of really, really old derelict bridges, and the status of our bridges is not good because most of our bridges are really, really old, and therein lies the problem. They last for so long, and then you have to go in and repair them or replace them, and
And what is that cost?
Well, the cost for a bridge is, of course, determined by the size of the span,
Sure.
and the length of it, and and how tall it is. There are just a lot of variables in that. But you're easily, it could be $500,000 to a few million, depends on the bridge, very, very, very easily. I mean, think about how much things
When
cost.
you multiply that around the county, we have lots of bridges.
Yeah, I forget
around
how many
this
bridges we have when you
Yeah.
consider both the county bridges and the township bridges. The cost to be able to maintain those are very, very huge. And when you think about the impact that would have to our agricultural community,
Oh, absolutely.
and just even the whole perception of Logan County, it's like, okay, you can't go down here because the road's closed because of a bridge or something like that. Now that isn't. There's only one currently in that status today, but it's almost like a harbinger if we don't figure out how to deal with this and be able to get our funding right into those. Now that doesn't mean that we can't pay it out of our own coffers. But you read in the paper from Mr. Rubin said aptly today that I would call the wind farm permits, if we're fortunate enough for that to come through in phase one, that $1.15 million, if we're fortunate, what would have been something where we could have used for infrastructure like roads, bridges, those kind of things from our own money, could be just ate up, doing a trial. And I think that's a...
That's the unfortunate thing. If we get this windfall from their wind farms over there, it would be nice to be able to use it for... But it would apparently, according to this morning's release on that PR, that this potential cost on this Harris trial are going to be eating up whatever that money might be. And it just seems totally unfair and it's almost incomprehensible that tragedy can cost the county government and the people so much money because of the litigation expenses that keep ongoing, and they just keep seemingly endless. And as you pointed out, Mrs. Schumacher, there's so much there's so much minutia that they have in the records as far as investigation and so forth. And you mentioned a figure of maybe 6,000 particular items that they have to, each and every one of those has to be gone over.
Well, we really got into a bad situation. I mean, it's bad enough that you have a serious murder trial anyway, but in that particular instance, the death penalty was still in effect when they were arrested and charged, and so and it was announced that we were going to pursue the death penalty, and that threw it into a capital litigation case, is what they call it, So at that time, the state had the fund to pay for that because the defendants, the theory was the defendants in capital murder cases deserved attorneys that were skilled at that and had expertise in that. So that's the path we were going on, and then the death penalty was eliminated. That capital litigation trust fund was eliminated. So we're not pursuing the death penalty, but we have all the evidence and materials that might not have been as extensive if we weren't pursuing the death penalty. So we were going down one course and really hard to change back, and so that's added to the expense because we know attorneys charge a lot of money, and if there's 6,000 pages of documents to look through, it doesn't get that hourly rate what that would be. So that we've really gotten stung by the timing of the elimination of that fund, which would have really helped us.
Well, it's unexpected. Those are costs that you can't budget in. You may have to use a general figure, but you can't begin to imagine an excessive cost like we're incurring here in this particular trial.
I will say that Jen and I both went down after this became law. We both went down to visit with our state reps and our state senators and asked them. One thing I was disappointed in is that they hadn't been championing our perception. My perception was they hadn't been championing our causes. Now, if we came and we put together exactly the wording and things like that, then they would do that for us. But I find that to be a little bit backwards. It's like they're the there are the people who do that, and they have staff who could do that, and so to ask us to put together what we needed when they're aware of that, and to me it was like an obvious thing. It's like, okay, Logan County has this here going on. It's going to cost how much, and it's unfunded for them, and now the cost is going to switch to that instead of this here fund. I don't know if they voted for that or not, but the onus or the cost of that fell on us, and so now we're just kind of stuck with that. Some of that has to do with you get these special attorneys because back then they had to have the special certification to be able to handle the death penalty type of cases, but now they don't have to. But we're stuck with that kind of extra fee because they're extra pricey, and the extra amount of investigation took place because to be able to prove that is you have to have all kinds of evidence, and that attorney that's very pricey, goes through every piece of evidence. It'd be nice to be able to figure out how to segue one of our own public defenders who is less cost, where we already have them on it's already on our dole, so there's no extra cost to us. How to basically segue the into that where there wouldn't be any loss of or putting the trial in jeopardy because we switched lawyers on. We'll have to talk to the state's attorney and see if we can come up with that.
That's kind of just a fact of life, though, isn't it? Any equation that you tweak at one end, you're affecting it clear down the line.
Absolutely.
And I'm afraid sometimes we human beings come up a little short-sighted. We think, hey, this is really a good idea. We'll just do away with this. We won't have this anymore. Well, then they forget that all the trees in the forest begin falling like dominoes right toward it, Yeah,
we had hoped, when Terry and I went down and met with our legislative representatives, we had hoped that for the counties, and there were a handful of other counties like us that were in process on a death penalty case that got caught short, we were hoping that the fund, which ended in the end of December, could have been extended for those cases that were already in the process, or some other kind of legislative relief.
Kind of grandfather them in or something?
Right, exactly. And we weren't able to accomplish that, but we did give it our best shot. Like you said, we went down to Springfield and met with each of them individually, and they were sympathetic, but we weren't able to really get that done. But I'd like to address something on the wind farm for a minute, if I could.
Yeah, sure.
I think there's sometimes a misconception about the amount of money that the county is going to receive from that. The $1 million, approximately $1 million, is in the permit fee. That's a one-time fee.
We
will get a little, not a little, we'll get several $1,000s. And do you know what the annual amount is?
I don't know what it is.
I'm thinking like $100,000 a year, but I'm not exactly sure. But it's in that range in property tax. So there's a misconception by some that we'll get $1 million a year from the wind farms. That is not the case.
Make that straight.
It's the building permit, it's the one-time fee, and then we do get the $100,000 or whatever that number is, roughly in that range. So, which is better than nothing.
Yeah, the real winners are the school districts.
The school districts are the ones that are really reaping the economic benefit more than we are.
Well,
that's fine.
another entity that you have to pay for. You got to have schools. It's just,
yes, every governmental entity, of course, and it's been forever. Financing has always seemed to be the problem, particularly now. I noted also in this morning's paper, Mrs. Schumacher, and you were quoted, hopefully we can get a grant to do those ancient windows in that courthouse. And I'm certain that that's something that really needs to be done, not only from a comfort factor, but from a cost factor as far as energy is concerned. Does that appear that we might be getting some money?
We've been approved for the grant. It's just a matter of getting the work done when we need to have it done.
Well, that's good.
It's actually been a priority since Terry and I went on the board about 3.5 years ago, is to look at ways to be more efficient, to operate more efficiently. I mean, I think after Terry and I got on, it was no longer business as usual because we questioned everything.
Okay, and that's good.
Thank you, God, for that.
That's why you're there, kid.
And we've had others, newer ones, come on as well that are of the same mindset of let's question everything. It isn't, well, we've always done it this way or whatever. So we've been very proactive and have energy efficiency has been one of the things that, and Terry was chairman of Buildings and Grounds for several years, and then I on that committee as well. And so we've had the grant for the windows. We have had other energy efficiency measures. We've had another program through the state that we got at no charge to us because we've gone through the energy audits, and you just had to apply for it and agree to implement their measures. So we're saving thousands of dollars a month already on our power bills, and we'll even more so with the new windows. But we've already implemented a number of measures, and so lighting, right off the bat, we put in all energy efficiency lighting, and got actually state grant money to do that. So we've really done quite a bit in that respect, and then as many people know, we got a grant for the Bell Sun Energy Efficiency. It's just
it's nice.
It's
That's
more
right.
the heart and soul of the community.
Well, there's nothing wrong with nice, Terry.
No,
Right.
no.
It brings us, so one of the things, I grew up in around Peoria and Germantown Hills, and so every year my memories of the 50s and 60s of Lincoln was driving through when the Logan County Fair was going on, and we'd sit in the back of the
I didn't
station
sell you a
wagon.
program.
And yeah, we didn't stop by. You could have sold me a pencil too, but just sitting in the back of the station wagon, as we called it, because my dad worked at Caterpillar, and even when I worked there, we called it the Hillbilly 500 because it was about 500 miles to go home, and it was like a race. And you remember the highways, how packed they were.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like everybody going home because it was a vacation week for the major industry center. So we were going through here, and I'd look out and I would watch the Logan County Fair, and I think, now that looks like a great place to live, and never anticipating that I would live here for decades now, and so it's kind of a nice thing, but. It's easy. I mean, you know this from your husband. It's easy to just go and sit on committees, but to make things happen takes time and takes a lot of energy, and takes the due diligence of like for grants, is like finding where those grants are, figuring out how to write them, and then getting the expertise to fill them in. That takes a lot of time.
That's an art.
It's an art, but it just takes a lot of time. Dan's been excellent at doing that, but it's like we've been. On the window thing, it was we laugh at a collaborative thing. I'm pretty good at math and figuring out formulas and stuff like this. She's a great writer, so we had to figure out how to do this. So they had this whole formula. It was really weird, and we struggled with it. Jen's like, I don't know how to do this, so I just mimicked that over from another county over to our data and submitted, and they said, hey, this is perfect. So they accepted it, and when we did the Bell thing, it's like. We're struggling because it wasn't about the architecture, because if you look at the bell tower, it's like, this isn't pretty, it's just a little thing where the bell sits inside, but it was about the sound. And when we grasped that, and when we said that to that person grasped, we're going to bring the sound back to Logan County. All of a sudden they got it right in here, and every time I hear that bell, I smile. And I was going to church here a couple of weeks ago, and across the parking lot, some lady hollered at me, and I don't even know exactly her name, but she said, Terry, listen to the bell. That's wonderful. And it's like, I mean, you're right. Nice is nice, because this is Lincoln. This is Logan County. It should be nice. It should be better, and it should be our quest to make Lincoln and Logan County better. And if it takes work, if it takes asking questions, if it takes doing that, then I think that's what being citizens here, we owe it to give it that part of our life, and to be willing to take those risks.
And speaking of bells, if we don't take a commercial break, we're going to have some sponsors ring our bells.
Okay.
Go right ahead, Mr. Rice, when you're ready, sir.